In this first episode, of many episodes to come, I sit down with a great entrepreneur called Marlon Davis where we talk masculinity, business, property, moving your family from London all the way to Portugal and what that was like, and so much more. Literally, this podcast is so rich with a flavor of different areas that you can learn from to becoming more of a man. And that was the whole premise of this whole podcast series, being a man, and to interview more senior, more mature gentlemen, taking their wisdom, taking their experiences, and being able to apply it to your life so you can kind of give yourself a better head start at life. I know what it's like to not have that older brother. I don't have an older brother. To not have peers around you who are a lot more mature to give you those advanced wisdom. And so I'm on a mission right now to interview regularly these great entrepreneurs, these great men, and ask them those serious questions to make your life easier, to give you that roadmap in advance to help you become better as a man. So again, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to like them. I hope you enjoyed this valuable nugget of a video to come. And if you do, again, let me know down in the comments. Without further ado, enjoy the video.
Thank you so much, Marlon, for jumping on. I'm super excited to deep dive, learn from you. Again, the whole premise of this channel is to learn how to become better men and navigate this world, not just financially, not just health wise, but also relationship as well. The reason why I reached out to you is because you're somebody that I met on Clubhouse, who I just gravitated towards. Again, you really were just a great mentor during the whole Clubhouse period, but also a great friend as well. And through our various chats, we followed each other, and I've just been seeing your journey in life. You recently moved to Portugal, which is amazing, but I'll leave that to you to kind of like deep dive. And I just wanted to touch base with you because along viewing the insights of your life, there are a lot of things which I gleamed that I was like, this is a man who really takes priority of his family, and I need to learn from him. I need to, spend some quality time. I know you're all in Portugal right now, but I need to spend some quality time to actually really learn from him because there's not many male figures out there who kind of run the road correctly. Yes, they might have wealth, but they might not be doing certain things right in regards to relationship or even just certain principles and morals. So, yeah, that brings us to this conversation today. I will let you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, business wise to your family in general, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me. And I've always been a fan of yours as well, so the feeling's mutual. I just love the way you carry yourself, and you just have this air of like honesty and transparency, which I think is rare. It comes through in your content.
Mm.
So yeah, Marlon Davids, as you know, um, I've been on a journey. I would say I'm 42 years old, got 4 kids, married.
Congrats.
Um, I've been on a journey of self discovery, entrepreneur, businessman, serial entrepreneur. I'm a techie by trade, so I've been in IT since I was 16. So I left school with no qualifications really. Walked straight into IT position. When I was at school, I actually knew that I wanted to be in IT. That was
Mm.
my dad actually talking about role models. That is my role model. He's no longer with us, but when he was, he was ultimately my guiding star. And he I remember he was unemployed for a while, and he got a PC, and I watched him fall in love with it. And
Mm.
I remember watching him, but at the same time I was falling in love with this like piece of machinery. And then he used to work on the tubes, London Underground, and then he wasn't fulfilled, right? And I used to watch him, and then he fell in love with this PC, and then he got a job in PC world, and I watched him just become a techie. And then once I remember the day he showed me, he was on a website and he was saying, "Look, son, you can earn £50 an hour in IT." And I was like, "What? £50 an hour?" I said, that's what I want to do. And it was a Windows NT administrator. And at school, my teachers used to say to me, "What do you want to be?" And I used to stand up in front of the class and say, "I want to be a Windows NT administrator." And I was like, "What's that?" And that's what I became, right? That was one of my first jobs. So I really am big on manifestation and talking your truth, and making it become a reality. If you say you're going to do something and you say you want to be something, I think the more you say it and do it, the world just moves to make that happen. So, I have gone through life really, I would say, winging it, but things seem to happen and fall into place. You know, my family always say to me, you always land on your feet. I'm like, well, do I? Because I tell you what I'm going to do before I do it. So I don't land on my feet. I just manifest what I say. And I
Mm,
think we can all do that. But you know, as a man, you have to um, really. There's a you know, it's funny because I watched the Tates and all this stuff, and this. I feel like there's a new movement of men um, speaking their mind.
mm,
I don't agree with what I hear, but there is some truth in what's being said in terms
mm,
of men have a really hard life. Like we have so much responsibility, and I know you're younger than me, Sam, so you'll see, right? The moment you kind of like start to build towards, you know, family and building your life the way you want it, you'll see how much responsibility once kids come into the mix. For me, that was the thing that changed me. You know, the moment I became a dad, I used to think, oh God, now I have to like prepare this different type of life. It's not all about me anymore because I'm big on legacy and I want my kids to still know who I am and
mm,
for me to still be part of their life through the foundations and the generational wealth that I've built. And I
mm.
think when you take that mindset, and I'm a big fan of Dame Dash on this, who talks about this a lot. When you have this mindset, I think you quickly um, have a much clearer decision. It's no longer about BMs and nice stuff for you. It becomes, well, how can I put down foundations that are going to outlive me? Because
Mm.
ultimately, money going to live, you know, hopefully as long as possible. But how do I live on, right, through my kids and my grandkids and my great grandkids and my great great grandkids? And how do they still have that same um, how do they still maintain the foundations that I've built? How do I pass on not only the wealth but the knowledge on how to manage the wealth? I'm not saying, you know, I'm super wealthy, but you know, I'm putting down some moves
Yeah,
now actually, and have been for a while to
yeah.
make sure that. And I'm waffling on, and
No,
I don't
no,
know
no.
if it's
I mean,
about me.
yeah, yeah, no, and there's many points I want to even like prod on that. The first one is before we kind of talk about your music because I know I've been seeing some great music you've been doing. The first one is have you always is regarding the word legacy. So have you always had that mentality of leaving that legacy, or did it, or was it when you got your kids that that's when it really kicked in and you're like, okay, this is much bigger than me, and me as a man, like that's what I want to like really put it in the world, you know, like that tree and plant it so it can grow.
That's a great question. The immediate thought that jumped to mind was that my dad's funeral.
Mm,
That is when I think I started to question everything because my dad was only 16 years older than me, so he was still young.
wow.
And
So he had you when you were 16.
yeah, he was 16,
Wow.
16, 17. And I remember him at his funeral. I remember sort of, it was like a surreal, we lost him quite suddenly. So it was like a surreal, I was still in like this weird bubble.
Mm,
And I think I remember looking around and thinking, this could be me
mm,
in 16, 17 years, which is not a long time.
mm,
So if this was me, who would be here now and what would they be saying about me?
mm.
And then I had a panic attack.
Like an actual panic attack or
Not a panic attack, that's probably the wrong word, but then I started to change my life
mm, yeah.
because I realized that it wasn't going to be the way I would want it to be because I hadn't done enough.
Mm,
So even though obviously you know your friends and your family will be there,
mm,
I had visions of changing the world, like,
yeah.
and visions of um, being internationally renowned and well known. I don't know what for, but I used to say I would always be on the world stage. I don't know how or when or what, but I then realized that Marlon, you got to do things differently if you want to create the legacy. Ultimately, that is the vision that you have.
Mm,
You can't just plod along in the same path, living. You know, I would call it. What's the word? Um, the safe life.
mm,
House, the kids, the school run, the car, the neighbors, the normal. I won't call it mundane, but it wasn't exactly exciting.
mm,
And
yeah.
from that day, that's when this kind of mission to explore the world and leave my country of residence, and all of these things kicked into place from that day. That was the start of the changes that came.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Because again, like I remember just like being surprised and impressed at the same time when you took that first trip to Lisbon to look
Oh,
at
right.
properties
Oh,
there.
you was full of my stories, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
you made that big move.
Mm.
And again, like I could just like I mean, I don't even know what your mom was thinking. So please do share with us, like, what was the mentality like when you decided, okay, Lisbon is the place. We're gonna make
Mm.
this sudden move, and you got your wife on board. Like,
Yeah,
take that.
well, that's what it is, bro. I think I always had a dream of like living somewhere else.
Mm,
Um, really, it was America. And as an Englishman, your accent only carries weight the moment you leave the UK. The
mm,
moment you leave the UK, you are, I would say, a bit special
mm,
with the way we talk. And America, our voice just opens doors. And I used to say to my wife, we went to America, like I would literally be able to build a business really quickly because I'll be in a room where I stand out.
mm,
And I wanted to go to New York, and she was like, no, the guns, and she didn't want to live in America, it's far.
mm,
And then I used to say, we used to come to Portugal all the time in the Algarve, and I used to say, every time we came to Portugal, I would leave Portugal, landing back in London, and be like, oh, I just want to go back. So it was almost like I wanted to reverse my life,
mm,
so that it was the other way around. And my wife, we actually got sick. It was after COVID, and we were like bedbound for like 3 weeks. We literally couldn't move. It was some sort of weird bug.
mm.
And I remember saying to her, no, actually, it was first. So in COVID, remember when we was all in lockdown?
Yeah.
It was the summer COVID, and I remember saying to the missus that we haven't seen our friends and family for a year. We could be anywhere, so why are we here? And
That's
that was the first
great point.
seed that I planted.
Mm,
And then the winter lockdown, we got really sick, and I said to her, if we was in Portugal now, we'd be on the beach. We wouldn't be, stuck in these four walls. And
mm.
she said, all right, just let's book it. And then we booked it, one way tickets, and then we were gone within 3 months. It was
Wow.
kind of rapid. Like you have to,
Yeah.
sometimes in life you gotta like take the bull by the horns and commit
Mm,
to something.
mm,
And I believe there's you got to jump sometimes to find success, like in life, right? You have to let go of the old ways, and you have to jump ship and do something different for
mm,
the result to be different. And so then we moved, and yeah, it's been stressful. It was a year, and to be honest, mate, I'm still haven't fully settled. If I'm
mm,
honest, we've been here like 17 months now, and best thing we ever did. If I'm honest, it's like a life experience, right?
mm.
I don't know where I'll end up long term, but right now we're happy here, and um, I know for a fact now my legacy is different because I've changed the trajectory of it. Um, and I feel like my kids have been enriched through the experience. No school can teach you how to adapt to another country, another experience, another language.
Mm.
They picked up another language, which I hope will be with them for
Yeah.
life. For me, it's like
I see how they just like
they're
learn
sponges.
every day, learning. Yeah, there's so much. Like
They're
to
struggling.
I
But
mean,
then
they
what
are
I will say,
school. They
yeah,
are
but
school.
but there's loads of things that I think as an individual,
Mm,
I believe that every human should leave their country of residence
mm,
at least for a year or two to move them out of their comfort zone.
mm,
And then once you're outside your comfort zone, your mind changes. You learn to adapt differently. You think differently. And so I think it's a good experience. It's an enriching experience. And I couldn't, for me, it's like the best thing I ever did.
mm,
But it's not for everyone. But I do think it really opens your mind to different things.
mm,
And one thing I would say I underestimated was the stress that it would put me through. And also, if you've got a business or something that holds you, you can't just leave, right? And I was running a business when I moved, and that kind of fell apart for the first year because I just wasn't in the right headspace. I couldn't
mm.
focus on on my business. And to be honest, I wanted to go back because I'm a businessman, as you know, and if I'm not running a business, I'm literally unfulfilled.
Mm.
And so I had to get a job. So that's what happened. So and then got a job working in the city. That's why you've not seen me on no socials or anything. I was working for a company in London. I was contracting. I was flying back and forth. But I was
Mm.
just keeping the revenue coming in, and
Yeah, yeah,
it was easier for me to transition my family whilst I had a stable income and my mind wasn't right for business.
yeah. Mm.
But now I'm back grounded again. I'm now back in business growth, back on podcast, back on content,
Amazing.
and I think I'm a much more wiser, experienced, cultured person for it.
100%. I can feel it already. And I even
Yeah,
actually want to touch up on just that moment of taking stock, taking responsibility to be like, because because I've been through a similar thing to a degree, not as like yourself, but
yeah,
you switch between your completely in the entrepreneurship space, you're building your businesses, and when you look at the numbers, you're like, even if you're self-employed and you're doing 100K, really and truly, depending on the kind of business, like that doesn't mean that you get 100K salary. That doesn't might not even mean that you're getting 50K salary once you've taken away the margins and all that kind of stuff. And then if you have any staff, blah blah blah.
no, I do.
And so when obviously family is now involved, and like you said, it's not just a you thinking about yourself. How was it to like transition from having to put the business aside and then do contracting work just to at least
Mm.
get that revenue in? Because again, I make this point because I want other men who may be entrepreneurial to understand like how other similar men may be feeling in a similar situation.
That's a great question, dude. So sometimes you have to put your pride aside.
Mm.
And when you've got kids, like I literally, so moving country, I run out of money.
Mm.
I underestimated it. And where I live is expensive. Portugal's not cheap, by the way. Don't listen to all the YouTube videos. And so I could see the money just like flying out the door, setting up a new house and new apartment and new furniture and new schools, new trainers, new this, new. And then I
Yeah.
was like, the business, I'd parked it and it was
Mm.
doing all right, but it wasn't, proper. And like you say, the business had a lot of cost. And let's be honest, the first year to two, you ain't taking money out of your business if
Exactly.
you're an actual business.
Yeah.
So then I was like, my missus said to me, babe, this business ain't working. Because she could see the bank balance. And I'm like, okay. But luckily, I've got a buy to let portfolio. So I was leaning on that quite heavily for revenue. I don't like to. I like to stack that up and then buy more real estate. So I was like, she said to me, why don't you just get a job? And I was like, I'm not getting a job, that's not me. I'm not that guy. And then I sorted out my CV that night and then I started applying for jobs online. And I literally had the job within like 48 hours. Like they phoned me the next day. I was on a call. It happened really quickly. And then I got a day rate contract in London. And then I was working. And I tell you what, man, the release of the stress relief was just crazy because I just like every month I had a consistent income and I knew exactly how much I was going to get. The job was kind of easy. Well, compared to running a business, working is piece of piss. Let's be honest, right? And I was literally putting in. I don't know. I was going hard. Like I was working till 3 in the morning. It was a data center migration, and
Mm.
I was working, but it wasn't nowhere near as hard as running a business. So I literally kind of just committed to that, and then I started to enjoy it, if I'm honest. And I spent like I say, 12 months just grafting, but not spending, just grafting and banking, so that I could then have run rate and revenue to get the business back off the ground. And you've probably heard me say this before, like growing a business is like getting a plane
Mm.
off the ground. So you
Yeah.
have to have some runway, which is revenue,
Mm.
strategy, which is, where are we going with this? And then put all of your energy into taking it off the ground. But you know what I did, Sam, honestly, and the best thing I ever did, and I'd recommend it, I just got my coach. I just got a coach.
Mm.
And I just said to her, listen, she's amazing. And I said to her, listen, this is the business. This is what happened last time. This is like after I stopped working. And she was like, why did it go wrong then? Why weren't you making money? And I started showing her. She said, you're doing it all wrong. She said, why are you trying to build a business? Just be the middleman, pulling all the strings and be a consultant. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So Blurt, which is, I help IT companies to grow. Um, I'm now just consulting. I don't build the websites. I don't do the marketing. I don't do all the work, but I make recommendations to partners who I trust. And I just act in the middle and helping them. And I absolutely love it. I help them with their branding, positioning, clarity. And I can have about 5 clients, at once. I'm just a consultant. I don't need to grow and build this big business anymore. I don't have that in me, to be honest. I think another thing about moving to a place that has a much slower pace of life, if you lose that UK London hustle, it will burn you out. Like I love the big city energy and entrepreneurial flair, but I also love chilling on the beach with the kids on a Saturday and going for dinner, having fish on a Sunday in a nice restaurant and just relaxing. There's more to life than just business growth, right? And I think that it's shifted my perspective now, and now I'm able to like really focus on the things that matter, and do what I enjoy doing rather than what I need to do to keep things growing. Because you can kill yourself trying to build a business in England, my opinion.
100%. And there was a point that you mentioned in there about the kind of like comparison between the two, city life and obviously how things are in Portugal. And I think there's seasons in a man's life where he needs to do things at a certain time, and just kind of like talk on like yourself, like how you felt yourself evolve in terms of like whether it's your energy state and how you went, like the hustle mode kicks in for a season because it's got to,
Yeah.
and then like now, like obviously with the family and the kids, things it's more strategic in how you kind of work. So just expand about maybe the different phases of your life, how that kind of
Yeah,
went
yeah.
about.
I think, teens and 20s, you just partying. I still was always doing real estate. I was always buying, not always, but I bought my first house when I was 18, flat. So I always, like, I remember I had a friend and his brother-in-law had money, and he used to say to me, real estate, real estate. He used to drum me. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And I had family real estate. So I would always buy real estate. So I put down some foundations in my teens and 20s, I would say, for, to be able to get me ahead. Then I would say 20 to 30, settle down, right? Meet your missus. 30 to 40, you build your family. But you also need to, and if this is for men, I would say the earlier you can start putting down foundations to passive income, the better. I really couldn't preach this loud enough that if it wasn't for real estate, like a lot of the freedom that I've got would not be there. And if I'd done it more, like I could have done more, I'd be even more. But it comes with stress and it comes with debt and it comes with risk. So being strategic with that and making sure that I would say between 30 and 40, you need to be going hard on real estate and stock investing. So my view is you need to be retired by 40. Or at least not have to work for anyone. Or not have to get up in the morning and fight to get a paycheck in the door. If you're doing it from 40 to 50, the reason why I say this on 42 is you do lose a bit of that energy. And your kids are at an age where they need you, right? You haven't got time to, like, if I was out all day coming home at 8 in the evening just before they go to bed and they hardly ever see me, I would literally miss all of this precious time that I have with them. So I think it's so key to have your freedom. And some will disagree, but between when you get to my age, you want to have everything nailed down. But you're still not too late. But then you got to work harder from 40 to 50.
Yeah. Okay. So let's again, I'm sure my target audience is usually around that age between 18 to 35. So let's backtrack. So 40, you want to be retired. Yeah. So between your 30s and your 40s, what is a man actively doing? Let's talk about that. So you said
Building Yeah, building and investing. So this is what I would do. I get you have to enjoy your life, but do not buy stupid stuff. Don't buy cars. It's a depreciating asset. Only work to build revenue. The moment that revenue comes in, get it out of your hands so you cannot spend it and put it into an asset that appreciates.
Mm.
Alongside that, you're building your business. So your dream, your passion. What are you good at? Will people pay you for? How do you become an expert in it? Invest in yourself to become the master of that. Like pick an industry, stick to it. Don't start flip flopping and trying to start 5 different companies at once. Like just find that one passion of yours that you're good at and people will pay you for. Do lots of it. Money comes in, dump the money into real estate, dump the money into stocks and shares, dump the money into other companies, dump the money in yourself. Like the amount of times I've seen people go and they would quite happily go and spend 40 grand on a car, but won't spend 40 grand on a business to grow and build for themselves is beyond me.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can build that, if you can find that key thing that you're amazing at, that people trust that you are an expert in, build a whole business around that and become the expert in it. But you don't need lots of staff and you don't need to buy lots of stuff. You just need to like prove a model works.
Mm.
And then, whenever you got a spare cash, stack it and partner with your friends. The amount of times I've seen, like as men, like we don't partner up. In the UK, I used to find this more that we don't come together. We're against each other.
Mm.
So if you've got 10 grand, I've got 10 grand, he's got 10 grand. Why don't we put 30 grand in and buy a house together
Yeah.
and then refinance that house, pull the money back out, get our 10 grand back, and then buy another one? Why don't we do things like that together? That is beyond me. I think that's culturally um, something that we struggle with, especially in the black community.
Yeah.
And we also don't um, have training in it, right? We haven't been trained on how to do it. And I think you should, if in your younger years, be finding your crew who are on the same path as you. And sometimes that might mean that your old crew get left behind, but you have to find the crew that are going to help you to get to where you need to get to, or bring your old crew with you, but show them that this is what we're doing, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if any of them hate on you or don't sort of light you up in terms of want to see you win, they gotta go. They gotta go. So you have to like figure out your core foundations, the people that can help you to get to where you want to go, because you're going to need people, you're going to need a team, and then surround yourself with like-minded individuals who support each other, and you have to seek them out. So networking groups and all that stuff.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And then just in regards to, because again, there's a lot of points there, and I used to listen a lot to the late Kevin Samuels, and he would talk about how
Yeah.
man, they shouldn't be lone wolves. They should, get a few brothers, maybe even rent out a place together, because that kind of energy you also feed off of each other. You're able to, save in bulk, things like that.
Yep. Yeah.
Again, so a lot of the points you mentioned kind of resonates, and so I get that for 30 to 40s. I'm about to enter that stage myself. I'm 29 now, about to turn 30.
You're young, man.
Between 20 to 30, what should a man now be doing? And we can touch on some of the points that I've just kind of
Yeah,
mentioned.
I don't think there's any rules to this, by the way, but this just
Yeah, no. I think the reason why I ask these questions is because I want other men, young men, who may not have that dad who has to sit down, chat with them, to have different exposures to how different men think. Because, like I
yeah,
said, there is no one set rule. But I feel like when you find a man who, they've got to age of 42, they've got a family, they've moved residence, they're still in their building mode, but they're responsible. There's points that you can garner from them. And so that's why I want to ask you this question. And yes, there is
oh
no
yeah, that's
work,
easy.
but I'd love
So,
to
shall I give you one thing? Yeah,
go ahead.
just avoid debt. Avoid bad debt, because I feel like a lot of people between 20 and 30 take out loans and buy cars on finance and start getting themselves debt ridden. And I believe debt is almost like, and I'm talking about bad debt. Obviously, we'll get onto good debt, but when you take out that bad debt, it sits on your mind. You know, when you buy a car, right? Let's say that car, and you might be earning, I don't know, say 20 to 30, you're earning 40 grand a year, right? You've got a decent salary, 40 to 50K, maybe, I don't know, UK economy at the moment, probably what, you have to earn about 100 grand to survive these days. But do you know the moment you buy a car on finance and it's costing you, say, £400 or £500 a month, it reduces your borrowing capacity by about 100K. So if you went to buy a house for 200 grand, you're actually, sorry, if you went to buy a house that's 300 grand and you needed a 300 grand mortgage, sorry, the bank could look at that extra £500 that you're spending on a stupid vehicle sitting outside and say, well, we're only going to lend you 200. So then you've got 100 grand shortfall just because you wanted to drive a fancy car. So I feel like you've got to get this kind of like, and by the way, I done it, right? So I'm not saying, I'm not doing it from a place of, I'm just trying to, like, if I didn't do it, it would have helped me. And the car, you know, I sold it most of the time. I had multiple BMs and I bought them and then I sold them and I lost money after money after money. And I just feel like I used to use debt because it was easily, readily available. The bank will just send, I know Barclays used to send you a thing like, oh, you can have 10 grand. And you're like, oh, then you take the 10 grand and then you buy this and then you buy that. And then you got £200 a month costs on you. You can't get a head wash, you're in debt. Only debt you want to be taking on between 20 and 30 is for real estate. And you want to be buying as much as you possibly can. If you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy real estate, then find another vehicle, stocks. Not too sure about crypto, but you know, there's other ways where you can put your money and it appreciates. Basically, I love a lot of these guys online. They talk about the money has to be working for you. So as long as your money's working for you and your money's having babies, as Grant Cardone says, and all these other guys, like, as long as when you put it out, it gives you a return, just keep putting it out. But don't be getting yourself into debt. Don't be buying fancy crap. Don't be buying stuff that doesn't go up in value. Trying to impress girls. You know, ultimately, when you get to 30 and you're in debt and you've not built wealth, you ain't going to be impressing no women, right? And then it's going to be a lot harder for you as a man. And you know, you've got then 30 to 65 to make it, and it's a lot of pressure at that point, especially if you haven't built a career, you haven't built foundations for wealth. And then you've got all this burden, and you've probably got kids, and you've got all this stress, and then you just quickly take a job because you're suffocating. You just need to bring in that paycheck every month. Then you could spend 30 years just check to check. To me, that's the definition of hell. Like, I do not want to be dependent on another man to say yes for me to get paid. It has to be all on my terms. And I don't mind doing that, but it has to be if I want to do it, not because I have to do it.
No, that's powerful. It's powerful. So, because again, I think the whole aspect of ensuring that you're not on debt is such a key thing, especially with, I mean, the inflation right now is crazy. So I'm sure it's having an effect on a lot of people. I think even Klarna was saying they were having like a ridiculous influx, just with different countries, just because of the whole crisis. So I think that's a great point. Just number one, just don't get into debt. But again, just to kind of go back to, as well as that key principle point, for 20 to 30s, again, somebody who's just turned 20, what are you advising for them to do to set up their life as best as they can? So yeah, definitely, stay away from bad debt, and we'll go into the good debt in a moment.
Yeah. I think, bro, just work on who you are. Make sure you know who you are, what you like. Develop you as an individual, and stand strong in your own uniqueness, because that will see you through. You need to really figure that out, right? So in terms of what do I like, what I mean by that is then you'll attract the right partner. You will attract the right friends. So it's almost like just really understanding who you are as an individual, and then trying to figure out, not even figure out, but then developing, you need to find if you haven't already, your number two, which is your missus, which is a critical decision, right? Because if it's the wrong one, you're going to lose half of everything. And for me, also, she's going to be the one, and she should be the one who can throw petrol on this stuff that you've already built to take it to a whole new level. And if she can't be your number two, she's the wrong one. Every man needs a woman that can support him because he has to go through so much. And it's true what they say, but you need your partner to help you to get to that next level. And I think
what would you say are like some key traits to make sure you're picking the right
just does she support your vision? I think that's it. Like if you say, oh, this is what I want to do, I've got all this ambition inside me, I want to make this happen, she should be like, go for it, babe. You can do this. I've got you. I'll hold down everything else, or I'll help you, or I'll support you. I'll do the admin, I'll do the sales, I'll do the accounts, whatever. Bring something.
And what about if she has her own thing? Do you think
Great.
what?
You support her. Yeah. So you do both. She has her thing going on, you do your thing, but you're both in business. Or she might just have a job and you can support her. She might love her job, let her continue to do that. But at the same time, she should be like your biggest fan, your raving fan. And if she's not, then she ain't the one. Let's be honest. Those relationships don't work. And imagine you're trying to build something and you have no support from your other half. It's only a matter of time before that relationship falls apart because you've got this spark inside you that is just not going to be put out. And so I think if you can find that, but the thing is, don't look for it. I think the moment you look for it, it runs. You have to stand strong in who you are and attract it to you if possible. If you haven't already.
And when would you say is like the ideal? Like, would you say like men should be looking to settle like in their older years or in their younger years, or like do you not have
when it feels right? I don't think there's any rules to that. I think when it feels right. I don't know, but I think ideally 30-ish is great because you've got everything out of your system. I know I settled down at 20. I got married at 30.
Okay.
And it seemed about the right age. But then my grandparents would have said that's old because they got married at like 20s, 21. If you find the right person and you know it's right, then don't waste time.
Yeah. And like even like the so from when you proposed, when you got married, what was that window like?
Bro, I was a nervous wreck. So I knew it had to happen. And I wanted to do it. I was just sitting on the ring and I was just like feeling sick all the time. I didn't want to. I was just so nervous, man.
And
so nervous.
How did you do it?
I had this big elaborate plan, Tower Bridge, went out for dinner. And then after we went to the restaurant, I wanted to walk along the bridge and propose on Tower Bridge. But she was like, oh, it's too cold. I just want to go home. And I was just like, because I built myself up. And so I just dropped down and proposed there and then outside the restaurant. That was it.
And like, did you know like her expectation in terms of like how she wanted it to be?
Not really. I could have probably done better, to be honest. But I just what it is. I just wanted to get it done.
Yeah,
I needed it off my plate, and I wanted to just move forward. And it was on her birthday, so it was on her 30th birthday. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So at least I had that speciality to it.
Yeah.
Great. That's great. And like, did you guys start talking about kids even beforehand, like while you were still just before like you like proposed, or was this more of a question like you kind of had after you proposed and like you were still like building? The reason why I'm asking is because again, the other thing I want to kind of gauge and find out about is when do people have these certain conversations, and how early on?
Yeah, my missus, wanted to have kids. I knew she wanted kids. I wasn't that fast, to be honest. But I knew she wanted them like from the moment I met her. My missus was very like straight to the point when I met her. Like she knew what she wanted from. She set that out. She set the stall.
That makes your life easier, I guess. And they
I
know what they
suppose
want.
so because I knew what I was going into, and so I don't remember exactly having the conversation about kids, but I knew that that would be part and parcel of the trajectory of we get married, and she's very traditional. She's Mauritian, so that was just the path that it was going to be.
Nice, nice. And were there any other key traits about her that just made you feel like she was the one? Like as well as she just like being on board with your plans and stuff like that. Was there any other things just like, yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people have these romantic stories of love at first sight, and it was all head over heels, and we were just like in love, and we got married within the year and all this. But my life was like, I was quite, probably first time I've ever said this out loud, but quite selfish and self-obsessed. Like I would go and get myself a drink and not even offer her one. And I don't, I didn't think, oh yeah, I'm going to marry her at first. But then what happened is, and this is why I say that you have to change things sometimes for things to happen, is I moved, I got a job actually in Amsterdam. And I moved to Amsterdam for 6 months, and I just started missing her because I met her just before I went. And I used to speak to her every night on Skype. Remember them days? And I started really missing her and wanting to come back to England to be with her. And then I said to her, my flat was empty, and I said, "Oh, there's no point you having a place, me having a place. Why don't you move into my flat?" She was like, "What, you asking me to move in with you?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm not living there, but I will be. And when I do come back, yeah." And then the relationship just kind of got stronger and stronger. And then I remember thinking that, what am I looking for? Right. And everything I was looking for, glad she's not here to hear all this. Everything I was looking for was already there. So
And
sometimes,
what were those things that you were looking for? What were the values? Because again, different men have
yeah,
different values. What were the things
yeah,
that
it's true. All the things I thought I wanted from a woman and a partner, aren't really the things that I wanted. If that makes sense. It's about education.
yeah.
And I think most men will say, what would you say you want from a woman, Sam?
I mean, again, I've gone through a plethora of books right now, so I feel like I'm very aligned with what I want, and I feel like it matches the woman I'm with. So, somebody again who supports my vision, somebody who's ambitious, somebody who has great traits like honesty, loyalty,
Yeah,
uh, caring, kindness,
yeah,
nurturing, especially for to
yeah.
be a mother, to be nurturing, and somebody who I can have on my shoulder that makes me proud as well.
So, what I thought and was taught is just a woman that can cook and clean.
Mm.
What a stupid thing to look for in a
Yeah.
woman, right? Because A, I can cook. B, I could got a cleaner. So if she can cook and clean, that's completely irrelevant. What you want is someone like all of the things you said that can support you and make you a better person. And I think over time, you learn these things, and we're not taught these things. Um, so, as time goes by, you quickly adapt. And I think I didn't know what I wanted. It's the
Mm.
reason why I didn't like settle down straight away.
Mm.
And over time, I was like, yeah, this is she. What I would say with my wife is she taught me what I needed.
Wow.
She taught me what I needed rather than me knowing what I wanted. And I think some men don't allow women in because they've got the wrong criteria
Mm.
that they're working off.
Mm.
Obviously, initial attraction is key,
Yeah.
but then from that point, you need to be like, my uncle said to me, marriage is about compromise. And so you need to
Mm.
be working out what bits of my personality do I need to compromise, because I'm quite hard work, I would say. We all are.
Yeah,
So so you have to work out how to like create this kind of unity
yeah,
that can achieve more and
yeah,
compromise some of your personality traits that have to be compromised as well as hers. It's a two-way thing. You'll learn all this, sure.
yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm getting the fast track, if I'm honest. I say that because so the girlfriend that I'm with, who I'm very serious about, and things are going great. She's my first proper girl. Well, she's my first girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah.
Always been quite serious. At least I've always told myself I'm quite serious in business, and I never really like had a relationship in the past. And again, when I came across her, I just instinctively knew that I wanted to like just get to know her a bit more. And long story short, we're now 2.5 years in, and things are going great. And like I've had to accelerate my maturity. And I was in
Mm.
church like about a month ago, and one thing that the pastor kind of said to me that really rung a bell in me is a boy becomes a king when because a kid loves playing with toys,
Mm.
and he becomes a king when he starts taking on responsibilities.
Yeah.
And when you're a kid still, like you just want to go around the candy shop, right? And he says when you're a king, like you understand that like you're looking to build. And so in actual fact, you're very dialed in on like what you're looking for, what you want, and when you enter into a relationship, you're actually looking at it as like it's not like I'm dipping in, dipping out. It's like no, I met someone that I'm looking to partner up with, and so you have to have the end mind of like you're looking to marry this person essentially, and through my whole relationship, like I was gaining these awareness, gaining these understanding, and that's why a lot of the points you state right now about, for example, compromise, such a big one. Like I'm realizing that yes, you can have your ideals in mind, and 100%, especially for guys, how we love is different to how ladies love. Like as men, like visual is the first thing. For ladies, is more emotional.
Yep.
Understanding that about yourself, but like you rightly said, after that initial attraction, is like you want to really be clear on these certain values are there because this is the values that will be the marriage and relationship, and you want to ensure that it can stand the test of time. And so yeah, compromises was one that I've had to evolve and learn and
You
understand.
learn it. You learn it.
Yeah, yeah. Were
It
there
takes
were there
time.
certain things that like for you, like you had to that what like instilled in you, but then you had to compromise on and had to like reform your
You know,
nature. Anything to stand out?
coming back to it, so I would say, like when I first realized this is the one is when I just felt like comfortable around her. I'm proud to have her with me,
Yeah.
and we used to laugh a lot.
Mm.
So, firstly, develop the friendship, right? So it's like, can we get on together
Yeah.
day out?
Yeah.
At first, I was, it's crazy because the first compromise, we were talking about the car, right? So I had a free 5i BM, and it got delivered, and she was at home. And then whenever I'd get a new car, I'd go for a cruise by myself, windows down, you know how we do. And she was like, "Where you going?" I'm like, "I'm just going for a cruise." She's going, "No, I'll come with you." I said, "No, I'm going by myself." And then she was like, we had an argument. She was like, "What do you mean you're going by yourself? I'm coming with you. If you're going out, I'm coming with you." I'm going, "No, no, no, that's not how it works. Like, I'm going out by myself." And then I realized that it's not about me anymore, right? So that was compromise number one, is whenever I'm doing something, has to be inclusive of the misses. And obviously we need time to ourselves, but there's certain things that no longer happen by yourself. And you start to then realize that, yeah, I've got to change.
Yeah.
Because I was super self. I was an only child. I grew up an only child, so I was so selfish.
Mhm.
So I had to learn how to bring someone else into my world.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that is such a big point in like that shift to really like whether it's being in a relationship to then being married or even just like having
Yeah,
kids, the shift of like you having to rewire your brain to think of someone else.
it's someone else's first.
Yeah, yeah. And like whenever you're about to make a decision to do any action, it's like really like it's
Yeah,
like it comes that muscle of like, oh, but what would my wife? want to be involved or this and the
Yeah,
other. And yeah, it's
you just got to think about your foundations as well, right? As a person, what are your non-negotiables? So you might be, I know you like to go to the gym. You might also like, I don't know, um, to listen to funky house at home really loud, right? These things make you really happy. Or you might be used to be a DJ and you like to mix on the weekends, right? You have to say, right, these are my non-negotiables. This is what I do every week, every weekend, and make sure she understands that. And then everything else from that point is about the both of you. But you also need, like me, I know if I'm not building a business, I'm super miserable. And guess what? If I'm miserable, everyone's miserable. So I always have to have that. That's a non-negotiable for me. Um, but that's about it for me. And I also need like a space. Right?
mm.
I'm only child, so I need
That's
my
what
own.
people talk about, like the man cave as well. You know, it's
Yeah, I
like
need my own room in the house where all my stuff is. No one's allowed in there. It's just for me. If I've got that, and I've got my business, everything else I don't care about. But if I don't have those two things, she knows. Oh my god, how do we make sure that he's got them things because he's going to be a nightmare to live with.
yeah,
See what I mean? So she knows already. These are his non-negotiable. I'm trying to bring the gym into that one now. I'm trying to get my health sorted out. So let's see if I can add another one into that into the mix and still get
no,
that
I
free.
love it. I
But
love
you
it
have
again.
to have.
And it's that stacking, right? But yeah, no, I love how because the point there is like again having that clarity of like mind of
Mm,
understanding yourself, that reflection, understanding what your non-negotiables are, so that when you
yeah.
present it, it's like okay, now that she has the bullet points of what you need,
Yeah.
then she can like operate accordingly. And
And
likewise,
she
when
will
you
have
get
her
that,
own.
yeah,
She will have
exactly,
her own. Every
exactly,
your missus will have her own. She likes to do certain things, and you have to be like, even if they annoy you or you don't like them, that's
yeah,
her stuff. That's her thing. And we need that in life. Even though you go into a relationship, you still need some individuality.
yeah,
Some you also need to be about you. And like my missus, she's got 3 kids right around her neck every day. I know that she also needs a release, like an outlet, something for her to do that gives her a sense of purpose.
yeah.
And I think that's so important as well because it will just become about kids and life, and it's monotonous otherwise.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Let's quickly move on to good debt because again,
Yeah,
grown in such a way, and I'd love to have this also be a point that men think about as early on as they can, because the real estate market is it's a great industry to kind of go into, especially when looking at longevity. So again, quickly walk us through your journey. I know you said when you were 18 or 17, that's when you got your first property. But I know since then you've kind of grown it, and even in Lisbon, you're doing moves. So let's hear
but
that.
yeah.
Not yet, but
So this is like a whole episode in itself. So you just have to be buying. This is the rule that I would try to stick to.
I'm write this
Think,
down.
think long term. Okay. It's funny. My cousin took some of my advice on, and he's been growing his portfolio. And I'm like almost like giving him so much of the wisdom of the things I wish the way I done it. So I know he's going to be sorted. So just buy one house per year and hold it forever. Forget about quick turnarounds, flips, and all this stuff, and deal packaging, all this nonsense. All these Instagram property guys are just doing my head in. Just buy one house per year, year on year. Buy it in an area that's up and coming, where the rental yields make sense. Forget central London, but try to buy at least one asset in the area that you know and grew up in because you know it well. Try and stick to an area that you know well because you know what, when the estate agents tell you the rent, you're going to be like, no, I know that road. That's good. You just need to know that intricacy of the area.
Mm.
If you can buy one house per year for 10 years, then you've got a portfolio of 10. I actually believe the sweet spot is 7. Once you get to 7 long-term holds, then you can retire. I would look in, personally, I love Kent. um, Medway areas because I feel like it's up and coming close to London. You only need to find a deposit, right? I think the 200 grand to me is the sweet spot. So you can put down 10%. The
20.
rental yields seem to make sense. Try and stay away from flats because then they have leasehold, freehold problems, and the freeholder squeezes all of the margins out of you. So if you can get, terraced house where you own the freehold or share of the freehold if it's a flat,
Yeah, that's not happening in London, but yeah.
this is where I think the trick where I want to, if you're young enough, so if you're in your 20s and 30s, put half of the portfolio on repayment and half on buy to let. So in 25 years, half of it will have no mortgage, and then all of that rent will be passive profit, no debt. The other half will be on buy to. You wouldn't have paid off the actual debt, but you'll have a passive income, and the properties would have appreciated. Then you can start pulling equity out of each one every year. The model to do this though is buy one, hold it, try and do some light refurb, get the value up, pull the equity out, buy the next one. I don't know if you can still do this, but this is the model that I think works great. This is the bit where I think you can actually turn it into something. And if someone does this, and hopefully in 10 years, they send me a message to say, thank you. Don't buy it in one market. Don't just buy all of your real estate in the UK, because then you're exposed to the UK property market. So look at Europe, look at America, try and diversify your portfolio so that you've got some euro revenue, dollar revenue, GBP revenue. And then if the UK property market, which it has now gone crazy and the interest rates have gone nuts, if you had some equity, some real estate in Spain, Portugal, Germany, that would be affected in the same way. And then you've protected yourself. Dubai, like just try and have a portfolio that is globally diverse. I think that's the key to true protection of your wealth. And then when you can, start pulling lump sums out, dump some of that cash into stocks and shares and hold it. This is all about not spending anything, just holding it. 20 years goes quickly, dude. And then if the 20 years goes past, then you've gone from 20 to 40, then all of a sudden you're sitting there with a portfolio of 10, 15 properties. Half of them are paid off. You can just go see you later to your boss. You can just walk out of any situation. You're financially so powerful that you don't have to depend on anyone. You drive whatever car you want because your passive incomes are bringing in enough revenue to push, a Lambo. And then you've done it in a way where it's so safe because you've just been strategic year on year and you haven't overstretched yourself. But I know I'm making it sound easy, but just get that first deposit together. That's the goal, right? The first deposit, mine was 8 grand. If you can get that first deposit together, you're on your way. And your mum, your dad, your brother, your cousin, your aunt, everyone's got money. Everyone's got money, but they just don't tell you. And if you want to put it into something, you got to convince them that you're going to pay them back, and you just need to get on the ladder. And I think that's, if you take one piece of advice from me from a strategic investment perspective. And by the way, my portfolio is not, massive. It's like 7 properties, but it's enough to manage. But I wish it was bigger. But at the same time, I haven't got the energy to to have more. To be honest with you, and I don't want any more in the UK because I don't trust the market. I want it in a more diverse and different regions.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. And again, I've got some notes down, but I'm sure as time progresses, I'll be hitting you up at the different checkpoints to be like, okay, what do I do next?
Yeah. Just get the first deposit together if you haven't, and get the first one under your belt. The thing is, when I done it, houses were like 50 grand. But you got to think, right? I should have bought more. Now, those houses are now 250 grand.
Yeah, if not a million.
If whatever. But what I'm saying is, in 20 years, you're going to be saying to yourself, I should have bought. What if you bought a house right now in 20 years? You'll be going, oh man, it was only 200 grand. And people be going, how much? My granddad bought it. My grandparents bought their houses for £2,000. Camberwell Green, massive houses. The houses are like worth 3 million now. It's just about holding the asset capital. If you look at the UK property market, it's like that. It never goes down. Or it goes like this, but over long term, it goes up. So you just got to have guts and stick, and just know that long term. You know, I see people concentrating on the rental yield. I don't care about if there's no rental yield at all, as long as the assets going up in the background, because then I'll draw that down later on when I need it. But I'm a real estate guy. You know, there's other ways to make money.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And you were kind of talking about, during your, I think it was in your 30s to 40s building a business. What kind of like, just to touch upon, what kind of businesses would you even like recommend?
Wow, that is a difficult one.
Yourself,
So if you got energy, a service-based business is great. I like retained income revenue streams that's contracted.
Yeah.
But I don't have the energy for that anymore because it's so exhausting.
Yeah.
I think I could do it again, but I'd want to have other directors, not just me. But if you can build a model, this is the kind of business that I love. A business that you can get people contracted on a long term, so 2 to 3 years, subscription based. This is why I love IT managed services. Then you can build a portfolio of retained income customers. So say you've got, I don't know, or a digital agency, even though I'm not sure. I think that the digital agency model is a bit dead. I'm not sure about that. But if you can build a business that has people contracted, signed on a dotted line for more than a year, then you know what's coming in, and then you have a business that you can exit.
Yeah.
I always believe that you should have a business. When you build a business, you should be thinking about, how do I exit? You're building it for exit. So you've got a 5-year plan, and then you exit after 5 years because you've built it to what you wanted it to be, and everyone's in a contract, and then you get a multiple revenue and EBITDA revenue. So, but I didn't know this when I built my first business. I just built it. And then when people started to come in to acquire it, I was like, oh man, if I thought about this at the beginning, I would have built it differently and got a better figure. Yeah. Exit. If I'd built it for exit, I actually didn't even realize you could sell a business when I built my business. I was just building it. So I had a passion. So I think if you got the type of business that I suggest is one that you build to exit, because that's going to help, knowing that you've got what I call, a cash event, like a multi-million-pound exit is like a dreamland, but it's also very difficult, right? So it's not for everyone, and you can only do it around service-based businesses, I think, or product-based. But I don't know much about product-based, but more service-based business is where I'm at.
Yeah, especially when it's you've got that predictable revenue, like you said, and you can look at customer users, customer numbers, and be able to see predictably, like, okay, times it by 6 to 8 your monthly revenue or yearly revenue, and then okay, yeah. So
yeah, people will buy it off you if they can see the money's under contract.
Yeah. No, that yeah, definitely a plan to keep in motion. Before we round up, last few questions just about masculinity. So, what does it mean to you to be a man? And what are the key traits you would say a man should have? Like, father speaking to his son, I want to raise up this boy to be a man. What are the key traits of it?
It's funny because me and my wife argue about this one because she thinks I'm too, not hard, but like I enforce this kind of, you need to be a man, son mentality. But I say to her, that's what my dad taught me. And I think masculinity is all about leadership. You have to be a leader. Like, everyone depends on you.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can't be crying into your cereal in the morning because things happen to you. This is what a man is to me. It's the difference. Obviously, and I have to be careful what I say, but women have a lot of stress as well, right? In life, they have a lot of things they have to go through as women, which is separate. But ultimately, a man's role is to brunt the hard bit.
Yeah.
All of the hard stuff is your task. And bringing in, making sure that the missus and the kids never have to want for anything or worry about things is our role. And I think ultimately is to show, for me, is to show my sons what a man is, so that they can do the same for their families. Right. And the same, my wife is to show my daughter what a woman is, so she can do the same for her husband in future, right? Showing her what it is. And I think for me, being a man is about just really understanding that you are the person, the buck stops with you. There's no one to cry to. And also, though, to make sure that you have your own mind in check, your mental health in check is so key. And knowing if you're not feeling 100%, that there's ways out, and maybe you need to start to learn about yourself and learn to talk to people, get therapy. Don't bottle up things inside. And I think if you can tick a lot of these boxes, it's like men should never cry, but why not cry if it helps you to get over stuff? Don't be scared to like let your emotions out and be emotional, and don't bottle things up inside and speak your truth. And I think if you can be that kind of man, those are the men that I look up to the most. It's not about, sometimes I see like who's the most alpha lad, and loads of times I'm with men and alpha males, and I just shut my mouth and don't say anything, because I feel like the most alpha is the one who doesn't speak and observes. And I think learning from others around you, and like what we said earlier about bringing other guys with you as a brotherhood, is what a man is all about. And making sure you make time for your man time, right? If I don't have like a few beers and go out with the lads or my brother-in-laws and their crew often, I start to get like really uptight, because I need that energy, energy around me to laugh and let loose. I think that's so important. And don't isolate yourself. I've seen so many men who isolate themselves and lose their friendship groups, just become like this worker guy who just goes and brings the bacon home but doesn't have any life for himself. That's a dangerous road to go down.
I agree. It's funny enough. Today, I actually have a catch up with my friends, my guys, around 6 o'clock. He messaged me earlier in the week, and I was like, yeah, anytime after 3, after our podcast, then we'll just catch up. And it reminds me of during COVID when I was so isolated, and then when
Oh,
I
bro.
got that taste of like chilling with my boys. I was just like, man, like you really deep how as human beings, like we need this. Like it's not even like it's like you got to
Yeah.
program it into your week, because as you just said, the word was uptight. Like I was feeling very uptight. Like I felt like I had no outlet to like give some energy to, or even just like chill. Like when you're, let's say, even with like girls, sometimes you're still in your mentality of like, I'm still like alpha, I'm still like protector. But with your guys, you just know like everyone goes to whichever level they're at, right? But at least with men, like you can just be yourself. If you want to be the funniest guy in the room, you be the funniest guy in the room. If you want to be
Yeah.
the guy who's like always like just doesn't say anything, you could be that, and it's socially
Yeah.
accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt
It's
like
important to laugh, man. It's important to have friends and people that who know you and you can be yourself around.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, COVID destroyed me mentally. I'm a very social person. I didn't know that though until COVID, and
That's why
the
we
lack
were
of
out so much.
yeah. Remember, I literally lived on Clubhouse for like a year. I needed interaction. I need to speak. I need to talk to people. I need to learn.
Yeah,
Like I love listening to people and learning. Like I'm talking now, but at the same time, I listen more than I talk. Like, I listen to so many podcasts, so much content. Um, and I educate myself through it. And I think that's another thing as a man. You have to learn to realize that you don't know everything.
Mm.
If I'm with someone and they know it all, I actually cannot stand to be around them. People that know everything are the worst because you have to let new information in.
Mm.
And I think,
So I think it's very ignorant to feel like you know everything because you don't. Like the world is so infinite that like you've lived what less than 100 years on the planet. You can't
thank
know
you.
everything. So
But some people, they carry themselves, they know everything, they know, and I switch off, especially if I'm giving you what I would call like, I feel like I'm very wise because I listen to a lot of stuff. And especially if you're younger than me and I'm talking, you should just be making notes because that's what I do. Like, since I moved to Portugal, I've got friends who are like older. And when I sit with them, dude, it's like I want to get my notebook out. They're just talking, but I'm like, oh my God, because you cannot, years is education, right? And if someone's perspective they've been through more than you mentally, they know more than you, so you need to just shut up and listen.
yeah, yeah. Recently, I've been tuning into a few particular men, and they talk about how like we are very much in the matrix now. I know everyone has their own like perspective on that, but the point that he was making was if you actually just consider that the world is a matrix, yeah, and your goal is one of your goals is acquire skill set, and you obviously want to create the life that you want. Well, the best way is to figure out how you can download data sets, how you can download the inventory that you need in order to help you do certain things. And as you said, like, when you meet men who have more experience, your goal then should be how do I orientate myself to condense what they've learned and download that quickly. And I
Yeah.
feel like rightly what you just said, like, when you're in the presence of people like that, like, yeah, just whip out the notebook, whip out the book,
Oh,
be
I
like, yeah,
regularly find myself wanting to get my notebook out, but that also goes back to you definitely don't want to be, you want to be the dumbest person in the room. You want to be around people that know more than you, right? And I think if you find yourself in a room all the time where you're the smartest, you're in the wrong room. And for me, I love when I'm in front of someone who knows stuff. I'm actually going to a barbecue today, and I know there's two guys there who wise, and I'm excited because I know I can learn some shit. And if I can't learn from you, then I limit my time. It's all great, like having laugh and joke, but and when I say learn, it's not about money here, right? This is about like learning from someone who's been through life experiences and can give you perspective that is different from yours so that you can um, compare notes and then have a different perspective. And I think if you can always feel like that, I mean, for me, that lights me up. And not just men either, women as well. Like I know so many, to be honest, it's funny. I was doing a LinkedIn post and I'm half written it. All of my team is women around me. My coach, my accountant, my bookkeeper, my wife. It's all women.
I mean,
I've got a video coach, and I don't know why that is, but maybe that's just how I like to surround myself with women because they plug the gaps that I have in my own self.
mm.
Um, and I think you can learn a lot by listening to women.
Mm.
I'll just leave that there.
Well, that's a evergreen quote for when you get into marriage.
Yeah, yeah. You can learn a lot.
Awesome, awesome. Well, again, I mean, I've been blown away by these points. Definitely points that I'm going to be looking to take on board. For any of those men who are out there, if you found value, again, put a note down in the comment. Let us know what you learned. If you did want to reach out to Marlon, feel free to just quickly state any social media platform that you'd like for them to
Yeah,
just.
just search for me on just Marlon Davids on Instagram. That's my new Instagram. And Marlon Davids on LinkedIn. You can get me on both of those if you want to chat. Always here to help. Love to help people. Love to see people grow. I'm obsessed with business growth and obsessed with helping others to achieve their goals in life. And if you hit me up, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with a reason.
Yes, indeed, and definitely, again, we will definitely have at some point another call regarding just that business growth, because I know once you start talking details, you're
Oh man, yeah,
it's,
that's a different. It's a different
yeah,
conversation.
I
But I
know.
like this
Yeah.
conversation because this is more um, life.
Mm,
It's not all about business all the time.
mm,
And that obviously, I've got different perspective now because I've changed my life in a way. But yeah, we can get into the business stuff on another podcast. And I know
yeah.
you got lots to share as well on that.
Well,
So
yeah, I mean, but like you said, I know there's experience that you've acquired that, if we're able somehow to condense that into an hour to 2 hours, that is value to another man out there who's just trying to figure out life and the world right now in regards to business. So yeah, thank you so much for your
figure
time.
yourself out first, and the rest will fall into place.
100%.
Yeah, Andrew.
So yes, thank
Always
you
a
so much
pleasure.
for your time.
Man.
Have a great time at the barbecue, and looking forward to speaking to you in the future. All right, all the best. Take
Bye,
care.
mate. Good to see you. Take care, dude.